we're not trying to replace those. We're simply trying to providing a different experience that allows you to not only chat live and serve your user, but also train the bot to learn from the conversation. So we've built those functions right into the chat.
Welcome to the Chatbot Podcast, the place where we talk about bots, artificial intelligence, smart automation, and messenger marketing. We value our time and enjoy when technology makes our lives easier. And now your host, Balint Pataki.
Welcome everyone, this is episode number 10. Today we are talking about how to make your simple chatbot smarter. Janis is, in my opinion, one of the most useful bot plugins that you can imagine. It helps you utilize Google's AI, Dialogflow, without all the hassle you had to go over before. Imagine that whenever your bot doesn't know how to answer, Janis notifies you immediately and you can jump in and take over the conversation directly from the chat. But that's not all. You can tell Janis to learn from this situation and you will have it automated for all future scenarios. As not all the features come with the free version, I've decided to add Janis into the stack of our Pro membership. So members not only get access to all the training videos, mastermind calls, templates and other bot plugins, but also premium software such as Bot Builder or Janis. I run a giveaway now and you have the opportunity to get a free membership. Just hop over to chatbottutorial.com/giveaway and enter with 2 clicks. And as always, we will have the show notes and this time also the video version of this interview over at chatbottutorial.com/podcast. Without a further ado, please welcome to the show, Josh Barkin. Thank you, Josh, for accepting my invitation and making time for this interview. I'm really stoked to learn about you and about Janis.
Oh, great. Well, thanks so much for having me.
You have some experience with tech companies already. Give us a little bit of background for the listeners who don't know you yet. What's your experience in this space?
Sure. So I've been in the tech space for a number of years. Going way back, I guess in the late 90s, I was part of a team. I actually headed up the product on a team that launched what was really one of the first web-based live chat solutions. And so I really got to experience the power of one-on-one marketing way back in the .com era. So the technology has evolved, but the concept is actually very similar in how you engage with users. Over the years, I was involved in a number of different ventures. I've done e-commerce. I built a business called Professor Print, which was a self-service design and printing company, which I sold in 2010. And then I launched an iOS, like an iPhone gaming studio. And I did that for a few years. And that's actually how I ended up meeting my co-founder. He was also doing the same thing. So he was building essentially a mobile game studio. And, we had a lot of things in common. We both agreed that, the bot space was going to be significant enough that we want to be a part of it. Excuse me. And then we just started, we didn't really know what we wanted to build. I think we wanted to understand more about, how bots worked and what were the capabilities and the limitations. And, we did a number of experiments in that. And so, eventually we ended up building Janis, but it wasn't, we didn't set out to build Janis. We set out to solve problems for ourselves as bot makers. And we ended up, as a result of that, we ended up building Janis. So it's kind of I have a kind of a long history of, tech projects from, actually being in live chat to e-commerce to mobile gaming to, the bot space is obviously, I'm in the same position as everyone else. It's still fairly new and we're navigating our way through it. So that's pretty exciting. The bot space is pretty exciting. It's still a wild west. It's if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And I see it very exciting coming together, like the mobile space and the live chat, which are kind of got to the top of the applications with the chat applications and how they dominate in if you think about like the statistics, all these bot makers show about the millennials, how they use chat applications, and it's because of the mobile first experiences. It just seems like it came together for you with a good timing and a good partner, and you have actually something to solve, right?
Yeah, I definitely, it excites me. I think that we reached a point in the iPhone app space where it was, it just reached that point where there was just too many apps. Everything had been done, and the rate at which people just didn't feel the same excitement about apps as they once did. And this was a space that I was really anxious to. I believed in the future of messaging as for business communications. We're also big believers in voice and as a medium for communications. And we just wanted to we really wanted to jump in and learn more about it ourselves. And the best way to do that was to really dive in and just build stuff and see what kind of stuff worked. Just real experiments. And I think that the one thing that concerned us was what can a bot do and what can't it do? And there was a lot of things that it really can't do. So it was a matter of understanding that, understanding what its limitations were and where bots to understand their capabilities. So, so we just started building it, a bunch of different experiments. One of them was we started building alerts that would, alert us every time a bot couldn't respond. And then from there, we wanted to take over the bot because we wanted to retain the user when the bot couldn't respond. So we ended up building this, a series of capabilities, I guess, for what became Janis. Alerts, human takeover, and then we didn't just want to take over and retain the user. We wanted the bot to learn from the conversation. So we built in training tools right into the transcript, and that became productive as well. So essentially, what we ended up creating was Janis. We refer to Janis as an AI assistant for bot makers. It really helps bot makers gain insight and improve their productivity and their fix problems fast in their conversational experiences. And what's interesting is we use it ourselves. So when people communicate with Janis and Janis is non-responsive, we get alerts and we take over. And when people tell us that our support is really great, which we're really happy to hear that. It's a big part of that is because of Janis, because Janis is able to do that. So we're just like everybody else building bots. We've just built the product that other bot makers can use, and it's been great so far. The feedback has been amazing.
Yeah, I loved how you liberated this phase, because everyone, when they say, okay, I'm at the phase now where I can make simple bots. But this NLP stuff and like connections, it's just a little bit like where the coding knowledge could come into place or gets a little bit more technological, and they like try to stay away from it. And this is where Janis comes in and say, hey, it's not that complicated. We can just click around and connect it.
I think a part of that has to also do with the industry itself. Like part of it is the users, yes, they stayed away from bots, from the AI initially. But a lot of that had to do with the way the industry took shape. So I mentioned before that, this bot space is a wild west. So when we first started working on Janis, there were new bot platforms popping up every day. A bot platform that did this, and there's new ones every day. There was probably, I don't know, probably I had a spreadsheet at one point. There was 50 or 60 bot platforms, and you ended up having some winners already in that space. Obviously Chatfuel and ManyChat are two companies that were able to capture a fairly large piece of the market, and the reason is because they made it so easy to create a bot. They have these web-based tools that marketers can use. You don't need to be a developer. And so they ended up focusing on the tools to create something, to make it as easy as possible to create what is essentially an app for messaging. While on the other hand, you had a company like, at the time they were called API.ai. They're now Dialogflow because they were acquired by Google. But they really just focused on the back end. And the natural language processing, and they did that very well, and that's why Google acquired them for their AI. But you really had, these companies were focused on different things. You can't be everything to everyone. So Chatfuel probably realized, or ManyChat realized that that AI is pretty hard to do, but they can do the tools to build the apps really well, and they can build that experience and build community around their product. And Google really just focused on the service, but that's where Janis kind of saw the opportunity, was to say, well, there's a ton of people that are building bots with Chatfuel and ManyChat, and they want the AI, but the AI is offered by a different company. So how can we bring those two together? And so that was, I guess, the sort of light bulb moment for Janis, was to bring the technology from, to essentially be the glue for the bot stack, and help not only Chatfuel and ManyChat developers use AI, but also the people that were just working with Dialogflow, some of the hardcore developers. We've brought them over to those platforms because they can quickly create an interface. So those tools are great. They do a lot of things that Dialogflow can't do.
I always love the tools, that make developers use the same tools as non-developers would do. I'm just like, that's solving a problem when the tool makes the developers use the tools that the non-developers use as well.
Yeah, definitely, and definitely, I think that we started hearing from Chatfuel users that they wanted to connect Dialogflow, my partner was like, well, the Chatfuel already has AI. What do they need Dialogflow? And I took a look and I said, this isn't, they need more than this. This isn't really AI. This is, it's keyword driven. They're looking for more robust artificial intelligence. And so, yeah, it was, I think there was a couple of things. One was, actually connecting to Dialogflow. That's one piece of it. But the other thing is managing that connection. And I think that's where Janis's strength is that, we give them the tools to not only make it easy to connect, but to then manage, I guess, a path to messaging automation. And that's where it sort of works. That's where it works well for them. A lot of the people that use those platforms they're marketers, right? They're not developers. So that was also one of our goals, is to make it easier for developers to use sophisticated AI from Google. And, and then we do that. We've made it more accessible. So that's the other thing. Like if you go to Dialogflow and you're a marketer, it's fairly overwhelming. So, we've made that technology much more accessible to, people that are non-technical, people in operational roles.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. We enjoy it every day, I believe. Just a little bit of NLP for the listeners who are a little bit new to this concept. So what's the difference there with the keywords, the artificial intelligence, and natural language processing or understanding? How is Dialogflow that much better than the other tools?
Right. So that's a really good question. So generally, if we look at what Dialogflow does, they've built the technology to really understand what the intent of the user was when they message you, and that's important because user can say things a whole bunch of different ways, and you need the technology to understand what they meant when they said it. So it allows you to capture what the user says and then being able to intelligently respond. And a response can be text response. It could be, similar responses to what you might find in a chat fuel, but also what we've been able to do a lot of the time is give people the ability to understand the intent. So keyword systems won't do that. If you put a keyword, it looks for, the word, it just looks for a word, but that word could have different contexts, right? So, with Dialogflow and what they call it an intent is, it allows you to understand what the context in the conversation is. What did the user mean when they say that? And how are you going to, what are you going to do when they say that? So you can trigger events and you can trigger, different things to happen. And then the responses themselves actually can also come from we have a demo bot, for example, where we use the artificial intelligence from Google, but we use the response is actually coming from Chatfuel, for example. And you can do that with ManyChat too. So there's different ways to integrate with the two. That's the short answer, but what you really want is you want the ability to understand the user's intent.
Yeah,
and that's what Dialogflow provides, and the others don't.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you brought that up, because in many cases, people just type something and it's like totally unrelated to the message before, and the bot just breaks down. And I think you have a statistics on that, like 90% of the messenger bots don't utilize that, or they're very simple and just buttons, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of I did read a stat like that somewhere. I think I may have referenced a stat like that somewhere, and it's true. The majority of bots are actually still haven't really tapped into artificial intelligence. But I think it's also because the majority of people building bots are building with Chatfuel and ManyChat. And I think Chatfuel, I've read somewhere like 45 or 50% of the bots on the market are being built with Chatfuel. So if they don't have the AI, then it's not being used. That's where companies like us come in and help bring that. And if we can make it more accessible, then maybe more people will use it.
By the way, how many people use Janis currently? Is there a number you could share, or how many bots are connected?
I can't share the actual number, but I can tell you that it's a lot. We've had just in the last few months. I mean, we've been. I think I'm just trying to remember when we actually introduced this to the Chatfield community. I believe it was early March, and so there's we had a few users before that in a private beta, and then we opened it up publicly, and we went right after the Chatfuel user, and it's kind of took off from there. So we've got I would say the majority of our users at this point are Chatfuel users. We just introduced support for ManyChat last week. ManyChat has it's fairly new there, so they have they just introduced an API, and they introduced the ability to do these dynamic default responses, which is what we use. So it's fairly new there. So but in terms of Chatfuel, the people that are using Dialogflow with Chatfuel, I would think that this has been a pretty clear choice. Just looking at the numbers for those users, they have a lot of users. It's been a lot. That's why I grew a beard, because we're busy supporting all the users.
There's nothing to do with you being in Canada, right?
We never leave. We never leave the. We're just constantly onboarding and supporting the users. So.
Yeah, I've seen the growth in a way. I try different tools. I've built out like custom solutions to connect to Dialogflow, but Janis just makes it more like I migrate all my bots now to it because it just makes things simpler. And as you mentioned, the ability to point back from Dialogflow into Chatfuel or ManChat, that's very powerful, where it's easy to edit and add videos or extra steps, and that makes the whole experience way better. What is the best use case? What do people do as a first step to make these bots smarter? Like, let's say we have a simple condition logic bot in Chatfuel, a couple of blocks and buttons or whatnot. What's the next step? How can we make it smarter?
Well, that's a really good question. So I don't think there is one particular use case that is. It's kind of all over the place. I think the easiest step is even just to frequently asked questions and being able to understand what your users ask, and then being able to respond to that. So the FAQs, which I guess applies to every use case, is your first starting point in making your bot smarter, and then it gets it gets more sophisticated from there. Like I'm just trying to think. I don't want to get too technical, but one of the things you can do in Dialogflow is you can create these things called entities, which are they have like. So that when a user says, actually, you know what? I'll show you. Can I show you a demo?
Yeah, why not?
I'll just share my screen with you.
Okay.
And that way I can explain sort of what an entity is and how we use that. All
right, let's do that. I try to comment for the users who just listened to this.
Okay, hang on.
And for those who are watching it on YouTube or Facebook, they will see it live. Or not live. But
yeah, it's just a real quick. All right. You see my window there?
Yeah. Or wait.
So this is just a real quick example of it's a bot. This is a bot for a band. So the band is on Facebook, and this was actually built with Chatfuel, and so these components come from Chatfuel. They're just a basic welcome message, and you've got some a gallery here. But expect that the users are going to send messages, and that's where Dialogflow really comes in. Is that it understands it's good for handling incoming free-form messages. Just little things like small talk, right? So this is all just, it makes this is like, again, it's very basic, in terms of how you might want to dive into Dialogflow and just use it for small talk. That's what they call it. Just so your bot appears less like an app and more conversational, and you can, do that kind of stuff. But here's an example. If you ask the band, are you coming to London, right? Okay, so what's interesting here is that we're using Dialogflow. Dialogflow's AI, we're using what they call entities, and they have this thing called a city entity. So it doesn't matter what the user types, Dialogflow knows it's a city, right? And then depending on, and then you can create logic that says, you can create your response based on on a city, but it could be any city, right? Like, are you coming to, I don't know, are you coming to Los Angeles?
Yeah, so it takes the identity of the city.
Yeah. And then we've created some response logic to that basically looks for, the city. And if it's yes, then it gives you a response. But this way you don't have to actually hard code or write out all of your, there's thousands of cities, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Dialogflow has a model that understands that it's a city already. It's a pre-trained natural language processing model. And this is a question that the band, for example, that we're looking at, they might get asked frequently. When is the band coming to your city? But yeah, certainly we've seen different use cases. It's been all over the place in terms of e-commerce. We see a lot of lead generation. So how do you know when a lead is a lead? Is it because they clicked on a couple of buttons, or did Dialogflow understand that their intent is to buy? So those things are useful.
Yeah, very good. And I saw also the way, for example, having these entities on your own. So, for example, if you're an e-commerce brand, you have different products, and they say what's the price of X and what's the price of Y, and then it can just identify and somehow pull into from a database, right?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. I'm looking to buy a car, for example, and so yeah, you can build that kind of logic in. I don't know why I used the car example, but yes, it's great for e-commerce and being able to handle large number of products, and but definitely when we talk about FAQs, they're not just static FAQs. You can have dynamic entities, or they're like variable pieces of that question that can be answered because of those things, those entities, like city or time, or you can create your own, like you said.
And is there a way to set it up in a way that it exactly knows where the conversation in the flow from the bot builder is, from ManyChat or Chatfuel? So, for example, we have a simple question flow, like let's say 3 questions, and then they don't use the buttons on the second question. They just type yes or something which would be meaningful in the conversation, but the bot, just a simple yes wouldn't make sense. Is there a way to tie these two together?
Yeah, I mean, you can do that by setting context. So you can pass it data from both those platforms. Definitely from Chatfuel, you can pass data. They have those custom user attributes and built-in user attributes. And you can use that data to set the context in Dialogflow. So, so that's how that works. You pass data from Chatfuel to Dialogflow, and Dialogflow will set the context and to understand what the intent is, and then you can respond from there. And then you can do the same with ManyChat. It's a couple more steps, but you can push custom fields from ManyChat through Janis and set context for in Dialogflow. But that's
amazing, because there would be some question about, like, if it's lead gen, like what's your budget? And you give a couple of options, but you don't want the whole range. And if they type something, it would be great for the Dialogflow to handle that and separate the lead accordingly.
That's what it's good for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. You use Slack as the interface. How does that work? How does it look like? Why is that actually?
So Slack is it's a workforce collaboration tool. it's essentially a workspace, and I mean, I could talk about Slack forever, but I'll give you the sort of quick background on Slack. In my previous venture, we worked extensively in Slack, and it allows your team, it is a conversational interface where humans and bots all work together to get things done. So it's different than Messenger. If you use Messenger for sales, marketing, customer service, lead generation, touch points with your end user, Slack is what businesses use internally to get things done. So that's the use case for bots. It's productivity. You can collaborate with other people on your team. You can collaborate with other bots, and that's where Janis fits in. Janis is one of those bots. And again, I mean, it's one of those things where Slack has been a huge success because businesses are realizing productivity enhancements, improvements. So they have over 1.5 million paying customers. They have it could be a team of just one person or two people, or all the way up to thousands of people. And so one of the benefits of Janis and Slack and is that we can bring bot management right into a workflow. So teams that work with Slack, they're able to hang out in Slack all day. They're not hanging out in the the Facebook inbox, for example, or they're able to connect all of their software products to Slack and then manage them from one place. Anyways, that's I think we started initially collaborating on projects in Slack, and then what we realized with Janis is that we could actually fix problems without leaving Slack. So, for example, when we wanted to train the bot, we realized that some things we could actually train the bot without leaving Slack because Dialogflow we could connect Dialogflow to Janis, and so then we built tools inside of Slack to be able to train Dialogflow. Also, we determined that we were already chatting with other people on our team, like we were chatting together internally in Slack. But what we realized was we could connect Facebook to Slack, and we can get all of the any conversations that users have with a bot. We can get those conversations transcribed in Slack, so we can see what was going on in real time, and we could respond to the user. So we could be in Slack, they could be on Facebook, and we could be chatting in Slack, and our end users would get the messages. And so that's what we ended up building out, was a tool to be able to not only get alerts delivered to Slack, but pause the bot, send commands that would pause our bot on Facebook, send messages to your user, and then Janis automatically resumes the bot when you're done chatting. So it becomes it's about your workflow, and so the more you can do in one place, like Slack, the more productive you're going to be.
Yeah, I really love how you put into practice the thing that you mentioned at the first time when saying like another app. Like if you put Janis outside of Slack and have your own infrastructure, it would be just another app. And now you incorporated it in a chat platform already.
Yeah, for sure. It's built right into your workflow. And I think that's key is, if there's a problem in the conversational experience on Facebook, you got to act quickly. And if you can't act quickly, you risk losing the user, but if you're already working in Slack and you get an alert where you're working, then it's, you can act on that alert from where you're working. In this case, it's, pausing the bot and taking over and retaining your user. It's really effective. You don't have a lot of time to act. So certainly, Slack is great for that. And it's interesting. I find that that's part of our challenge. That's one of our challenges right now, is the fact is that there are a lot of the users that a lot of Chatfuel users that are still new to Slack, or many chat users are new to Slack. And so we end up having to almost explain, at the same time that we're explaining the value of Janis, we have to explain the value of Slack. So we're doing Slack's work for them. Now, we've seen a ton of people just, when because they want Janis, they end up having to set up Slack for the first time, and they're like, "Oh, Slack, what is this?" And they figure out how to use it, and then they say, "Oh, this is interesting. I can actually manage my general business operations through Slack, and I can manage my conversational experience, through there too." So, yeah.
Yeah, I imagine like part of your onboarding is basically onboarding on Slack, like how Slack works. So you mentioned training the bot. How does that work? So the bot, let's say we have Chatfuel, Janis, and Dialogflow, and user in Messenger. So they type, Chatfuel knows the button options, little conversation, and then they type something, then Dialogflow can answer, and then comes something which we call as a default fallback. What happens then? Then there's the human takeover, or the training can come into place.
I mean, the easiest way is for me to show how that works. Does that help?
Definitely.
Okay. So, cause that's a lot in there. So I think we should just go back to this thing. I'm going to share my screen in a second.
I hope Zoom is recording this properly, like the screen that you share. But I really love the idea, because there are like two things here. Like the bot failed, so you want to take over and solve the issues rather quickly, as you said. And the other one is that you want to make sure that it doesn't happen in the future. So that's where the training comes in.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big part of our goals with live chat in Janis, is that where it's different from other live chat options is, and again, our goal is not to replace what you would do in many chats, or we don't want to. I know that Chatfuel is building out their live chat tool as well. So we're not trying to replace those. We're simply trying to providing a different experience that allows you to not only chat live and serve your user, but also train the bot to learn from the conversation. So we've built those functions right into the chat. And that's what I'm going to show you right now. So I'm going to share my entire screen. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's very exciting for me, because anytime I see something fail, okay, I can go in and either in Facebook Messenger, or I have other tools that are connected.
Mm-hmm.
And then you still haven't fixed the bot yet, and you
well, that's
like two things at the same time. That's amazing.
I think everybody has the same goal, which is to bring automation to this experience, because live chat is, it's you have to provide it at some point, because a bot can't do everything. But I think everybody would really want the experience to be automated. So if you can, if you can chat live and train. So let me here's this band bot that I used as a demo before. Let's say this is a messenger screen here. This is like a messenger preview screen. You play weddings. This is if you ask the band, do you play weddings? So this is actually already trained.
Say funerals.
Yeah. Let's
I hope
see.
It's not trained.
No, we can try. You need a new guitar player. I'm just using this as okay, so in this case, you can see here, the bot didn't have a response, okay? And then on the right side here, I'm in Slack, I got an alert. Do you need a new guitar player?
Yeah.
And there's other types of responses. So there's custom alerts. If I click filter alerts, I'll just show you. this is the bot, and I have all of our bots in this. You just pick the bot you want, and you can enable every time the bot doesn't respond. You can enable or disable that. If the user's angry, right? Like if I say WTF, you'll see there's negative sentiment. You see that?
Beautiful. Yeah.
Another alert type. If the user says, human or start chat or you'll see that you get these alerts too. So there's a whole alert system that you can configure, and every user that's working with you in Slack can set their own alerts. So sales might set alerts that are sales specific. Customer service might set their own alerts. Depends on how big your team is, right? Bot developers might have, alerts. Anyways, it's very simple. You just, you click the link in an alert, and it opens a channel, and this conversation is transcribed from Facebook Messenger. So we started with, do you need a guitar player, right? And let me just close this. And you can see the conversation. And what you do is Janis replies to every message. So you just click this. And you can see that because it didn't have a response, you got the default fallback.
Exactly, yeah.
Default reply. You can train right from the transcript. So it's really helpful, right? To be able to do that. Do you need a guitar player? So I'll just save this as a new intent. All of this is saved directly in Dialogflow. So if you decide you can work directly from Dialogflow's interface. But what we find is that people that are not technical use this interface. It's just built right in. So what do you want to do? You can add different response types. So I can add a text response. I can add quick replies. In this case, this is a Chatfuel bot, so I can redirect my response to Chatfuel.
Yeah, that's very powerful. And can you actually make something in Chatfuel from Slack?
No, that would be neat, but no.
Yeah.
No, but I can, here, I'm just going to type this. This should work. So I just created a response. My response, this is what users say. Do you need a guitar player? And your responses are, we're going to respond with basically the welcome message. And, sometimes it takes a minute to do that. Okay, so it worked. So this is the, the welcome message on Chatfuel.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
So there's a lot you can do here. But it's really helpful if I just type here, sorry you're having trouble with the bot. So in this case, you see how my message was pushed directly to Messenger in real time from Slack?
Exactly. And what if you have more conversations going on at the same time?
So that's where you have these channels. And basically every
single user has a new channel.
Yeah, and every single user has a new channel. And so there are a couple of strategies that we provide around that. Like this list can get pretty big. So some of the things we can do is Janis automatically archives a channel after 24 hours if there's no activity in the conversation. And Janis will, so that makes, so you don't have a huge list. And you can see here on the left side, I'm working from this workspace here, this Janis workspace. But we've seen some clients, they actually set up a separate workspace just for Messenger. And then you can easily toggle between workspaces, you see?
Yeah. I use Slack, and it's very powerful that you can also deploy Janis into multiple workspaces. So the client doesn't have to adapt to your system. They can use their existing channels.
Yeah.
Add Janis to that. Yeah.
That's exactly it. You can link Janis to or you can to other workspaces as well, and that's pretty powerful. But you can see real quick. I'll just show you this. Thanks for your help. So you'll see here the bot. Let's see. See, the bot actually isn't responding. No problem, because it's a live conversation. So, see how I'm pushing my messages live? And then what'll happen is, let's say you do have a lot of conversations going on at the same time, and I jump to a different conversation. Janis will automatically resume the bot after 10 minutes of inactivity. So that way the user isn't stuck hanging there. The bot can take over again. Or you can manually override that.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good.
And when you pause it, you can also, that's variable too. So you can pause. Let's say you want to keep it a live chat open for a period of time. You just say, pause 30. And so it says, your bot's been paused for 30 minutes. So you can keep live chat sessions open as long as you want.
Yeah. So let's say the user says, okay, I'm busy today. Let's chat tomorrow. You can just pause this bot conversation and have the live chat alive till tomorrow.
For sure. Very good. Or sometimes if you have a customer service issue and it's like a complex problem and you need to follow up with the user, you can say, let me look into it. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Expect a message from me here, so that you keep the session open, solve the problem for the customer, and then you can,
Okay. I have one question here about the training. So what if they just ask about the guitar player, if you need one, and you're just on there and just want to answer quickly, and you answer it via Slack, and then you can set it as a default reply for this intent, or when they say it automatically, or how does that work? Because we answered after, or we actually didn't answer directly. We set up a block to answer.
Yeah, we set up a block to answer, but we can do. Let's change that to a different type.
So whenever a question comes which you want to train the bot on and you don't have an answer yet, that's how you set up. You choose the answer before and then send it live in a way.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Sure. Okay. So let me, sure. So here was, do you need a guitar player? Yes, we're auditioning. This is just a quick demo. So this is kind of neat. So next time, a user says,
so if you ask the same question again, it will answer it the answer you gave. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, so the bot actually responded. But if I'm chatting live, we're live. Okay, and the user says, you're just chatting with the user, and they say, "Hey, do you need a guitar player?" Right. This is during a live chat. Sorry, let me close this so it's more realistic. They say, "Do you need a live chat guitar player?" If you have a response, you just push this button, and so you can use saved responses in Dialogflow as basically one-click responses. It's helpful for FAQs, right? I know this isn't a great example, but if you can imagine an e-commerce bot, and they get a frequently asked question, probably 50 or 60% of the questions they get are frequently asked questions. So if you're chatting live with them, instead of typing a whole response, you could just push the answer to them.
Exactly.
And that same answer can be used by a human agent, as I've just demonstrated, or it can be used by the bot when the human is in the middle.
Yeah. Is there a way to integrate some of the other customer service tools? So many, especially in e-commerce, they have a live chat with Zendesk or Freshdesk, where they have this little database where they can just push out messages. And as I imagine, like it needs to be trained. So it's not like we build out something in Dialogflow and it's there and it's perfect. So is there a way to somehow pull this information in from other systems or make it somehow easier to train the bot that way?
Yeah, it's something we've considered looking at, but we haven't done. So when I say that we've considered looking at it, there's pulling in information. We've done experiments where you take large amounts of data and then you try and train a AI to learn from that. And we found that it's unreliable. It just, you need, that doesn't mean we can't do it. It's just been unreliable. If we do it, can we pull in like single answer stuff? Maybe, yeah, it's possible. You know what I mean? Like pulling in data, it's still having a human involved in that is essential, but it's possible. Yes, it's possible. We just haven't done it.
Yeah, that's what I love here, as you probably just need a little bit more attention at first, but you can automate more and more things. And as the Dialogflow learns to be a little bit more smarter in this. Yeah. Just a little bit about the pricing. You have a very generous free option, and what you just showed us was the train from the transcripts, right? Or is that different?
Yeah, this is training directly from the transcript. So
okay, so as I understand, that's a pro function.
Yeah, we do have some free training tools as well. Like if I just type Janis, so I say train. So this is all free. This is like a training channel.
Yeah, so basically you can imitate the whole conversation on your own without pulling the information from the real conversations. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can, this is a sort of a quick way to, this is a demo bot. So yeah, so you can do all of this for free. You can see everything that, it's the same interface, but the difference between the free and the pro is that, with the pro plan, you connect Janis to Facebook. Janis will transcribe your actual conversations in Slack. You can train directly from those conversations. So use as you're chatting live. So you can take over, train, you get more alerts, that kind of thing. But there is a lot of value in the free plan for sure. I mean, it's not only can you connect your bot to Dialogflow, and that's free, but we manage that connection for you as well. And that's important because there's a couple of different ways to connect a bot, a ManyChat or a Chatfuel bot to Dialogflow. You can do it yourself. But it's probably not a good idea if you're broadcasting. You need a managed connection because otherwise your bot Dialogflow will stop responding if you don't have that. So that's what we do. We provide a managed connection. It scales based on your broadcasts, and it's monitored 24/7. So you need that. You need uptime. And that's all free. So take advantage.
As I said, it's a very generous free option. I love it.
Sure.
Just a quick question in the end. I don't want to take more time on this. I think we learned a lot. How do you see messenger bots and Janis in the future, in the near future? Like just quickly, what trends are coming? Like it's still the Wild West, but we still already have some experience or just a couple of years.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think, I'll stop sharing. It's a really good question. Certainly we see a major trend being voice. That's definitely, when we look at expanding Janis's capabilities, that's coming down that's on our short-term roadmap. And so very soon, we'll have voice support, audio support. So you'll be able to, for example, just as a use case, somebody could could record their voice, send a voice message to a Chatfuel bot or really any messaging interface, and then Dialogflow will be able to respond. Janis will take the voice and transcode that, and then so that's kind of the next thing. But long term, I think voice is going to be fairly significant too. Voice enabled interfaces, and I think Janis will play a role in that.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited about voice, and would love to try out just sending voice messages and get meaningful answers. Thank you very much. Would you nominate someone for this podcast? We talk about chatbots, messenger marketing, a little bit AI. Is there someone who would love to listen to?
Well, yeah. I mean, is there anybody that I would love to see? I'd love. Well, I'm biased. We love to hear people tell stories, success stories working with Janis. And I know that if I'm going to nominate someone, I would say that I think Deborah Kay. I don't know if you know her, but I think she's a great one. Not just because she's she's a Janis user, but she seems to have a really strong understanding of all of the technologies, Dialogflow, Chatfuel. She has some interesting use cases. She's doing some interesting things. So I think that's a good person I'd love to see on here. That would be one of my recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you have anything else to add, that's the last call, so to say. I think we covered everything what I would wanted to, and thank you very much for making the time.
Pleasure. I think I was just going to say, if you wanted to follow, if any of you the audience here wants to follow along and see what comes next with Janis. The best way to do that is we have a Janis community on Facebook. It's like a user group, and we'll generally post things there first. So we have a bunch of things that are coming out by the end of the summer, and you can follow along, ask questions. We're available for support, meet other users.
Yeah, and the website is Janis.ai, right?
That's correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. We will have these in the show notes. All right.
Good.
Thank you very much, Josh.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great chatting with you.
I'm getting more excited about this software every time I talk about it. I hope we managed to share something new with you as well. And if you want to experience all these Janis functions Josh showed you for free, enter our giveaway, chatbottutorial.com/giveaway, and have a chance to win our mastermind membership. And if you want to secure your spot or want more details on the membership, just go over to chatbottutorial.com/pro. And as always, we have the show notes over at chatbottutorial.com/podcast. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Thanks for joining the Chatbot Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to rate us on iTunes and share it with others.